amazing people, it's your girl here again doing this because of you and because I love you and because I know that whatever we are going to talk about is very instrumental. Karibu sana to another vlog. Here we talk about motivation, we do personal growth and relationships. So today we are talking about childhood traumas. It is under personal growth and development, and these are some of the things that we actually need to talk about because, by the way, people are struggling out there. We are hurt, we are going through issues, and we don't know that we are going through issues. Now, some of us have gone through physical abuse, we have gone through emotional abuse, we have gone through sexual abuse, we have gone through sexual traumas, rape, physical and emotional neglect, we have been abandoned, we have struggled with parents who have mental illnesses, we have gone through issues of divorce and separation from with our parents. You know, our parents have gone through that divorce, and then we have, if not all, most of us have parents who are substance users and they abuse substances. We have violence in our families, even if it is not direct, it might be an auntie, but you know, and you know those kids are going through something. We have had a parent that has been incarcerated, and also we have been starved of love. You know, our parents were having so many children that, you know, they don't have time for all of us, and some of us needed to grow up and mature, and that is the problem with most of us. We have decided to grow up on our own. We decided to suppress these my feelings, and you know what, we are here, we are okay until we get triggered, and then we are like, oh my god, I am toxic. It is not it is because you went through something traumatic. Okay, so please, let's do this video and learn more, because we need to know. Cindy, where there is knowledge, there is power. See you in the video. I have an amazing guest today. We did another episode about just mental awareness, and that was amazing. If you haven't watched, up here, go and check it. Click there, go and check. Then now I am bringing her back again. We are going to talk about childhood traumas. I promised you in that previous video that we were going to do this. So here we are. Welcome her. She has her own YouTube channel by the name Heart and Mind by Mary Fidelis. A link for her channel will be on the description. You better click, you better go and watch, because your life will never be the same again just because you came here. You're not living the same. We agree? Huh? We agree? Okay, so let's have this conversation. Yeah. So Fidelis, what is childhood traumas? For someone who maybe doesn't know the term or doesn't know what childhood traumas is.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Childhood traumas, in simple terms, is physical, emotional, or even at times sexual harm that you would have experienced back in your childhood days, back in your developmental age, that may affect you in any way in your adulthood.
Awesome. So in layman's language, childhood traumas means vitu tu mbaya, wrong things that happen to you when you were a child that have severe consequences when you grow up. So what are examples of some of the childhood traumas that people have gone through, and maybe they just say, that was my parent just being a parent, it is not a childhood trauma, so that at least people can know that this is a bad thing, so that we cut even the cycle, so that someone else doesn't now bring that and cause that to the children that they will have.
Thank you. Childhood traumas are classified under different spectrums. One of the spectrums is abuse, and abuse comes in three major ways: physical abuse, or physical violence, as it is said, emotional abuse, and sexual abuse.
Awesome. So if I am calling my child names like you cow, dog, I am abusing that child and I'm causing trauma to the child.
Totally, that is abuse, because you never know how it is affecting the child. You might just say it out of anger, but inside them, they're in pain. They're saying, "Hey, mami alinihitaji ningine mbaya, anasikia tu vibaya." Yes.
Okay. So how does that have an effect on a child
after now they are all grown up?
Okay, in an example of like physical abuse, when you beat your child, I know that's most form of violence that almost every single of us experience, whether at home, whether at school, and it was like a normal day-to-day life because we did not know better.
Yeah.
But in that, beating, physical violence contributes to fear. Instead, our adults, our parents, our teachers thought that beating us up is growing respect and discipline.
Yes.
But what it did is mostly make us fear.
Okay.
You would not do something just because you're afraid, not because that you understand you're not supposed to be doing it. In terms of emotional violence, if an example, a child grew up being told, Mom, Kababa, you're the best, you're a champion, you can do it, they will be better. They will work hard to achieve whatever they're doing. But if they grew up being called failure, you can never do it. In fact, most probably 90% of the time they will not succeed.
Even if they are talented or they are actually skilled to do that thing.
Yes, because it is already ingrained in their minds that I cannot do this. I am a failure.
Very true. And the people who are supposed to actually promote and just motivate you are the ones who are pulling you down.
Yes.
Okay, so how does that affect now this child as an adult?
This child as an adult who experienced abuse in terms of physical trauma and abuse will be having signs and symptoms of abuse. An example, this child will be anxious, over anxious. This child will develop some signs like, you see, some kids even up to their teenage years and they're not physically sick, are still like bedwetting. You flinch at somebody and they're like,
They want to hide,
because that is what has been developed and ingrained in their mind, that if somebody raises their hand, they want to beat you. And that will reduce their self-confidence, their self-love. It will reduce the amount of productivity, their productivity rate.
That is amazing. The thing that I'm picking is that a lot of us actually went through trauma as children and we did not know. And the worst part is our parents didn't know any better, so they kept on passing. It's a trend that is passing, and the worst part is some of us in our current generation are passing the same. I would also insist or personally say that as a mom, I have maybe traumatized my child in a way, because not every mistake is to be beaten over. Some of them you just have to explain. And some of our children are doing accidents. They were carrying water, maybe what? The first instinct you have is just beating them and telling them, you are very clumsy. Instead of, sorry, it's okay, it's a mistake, just go and bring a duster or a rag, we clean the mess and done. You just encourage them. Next time, walk slowly. You have communicated that, of course, the thing that they have done is not nice. Maybe be more careful. But most of us as parents, what we tend to do is, come here, you don't see what are you doing? You're very discoordinated or something. And that is not even the reason why the child maybe did the mistake.
And the generational lie that Mom, kuja uniambie, sitakuja. That is actually one very traumatizing words that kuja sitakuja. So you've already gained my trust. Okay, yes. I will open up, I will tell you the truth,
yes.
And I will not get repercussions. But I say, then you beat me up.
Yes.
So I gain fear, I gain distrust.
Yes.
So even people out there, I will be less trusting, I will be very closed off. For people to get into my trust group, it will take very hard. And in time, you might lose opportunities, you might lose very good friends that you would have gained because you do not have that trustworthy nature in you.
Very true. And it also harms the kind of relationships that you will have, because you will not give your 100%, even as you're saying, when it comes to trust. So now we have this adult that has gone through all the cycles. They were in their childhood, they had the traumas. Now they are leaving the traumas. They are very anxious, they have trust issues, and some of them maybe are even projecting some of these things to their children and the people around them. How do we help such people to overcome some of these childhood traumas? What can they do? If I'm very anxious, for example, what are the solutions for me? Because of course now this is a trauma that has been passed on. Maybe for some, maybe if you are raped, you decided, you know what, I'm hiding that thing and I'm never telling anyone. And it is affecting you from maybe relating with a significant other. When you're having maybe sexual intercourse with your partner, you always constantly have that trauma, and it just reflects back on how sex is so worthless for you, and you're not getting value or you're not enjoying sex. So how can we help people who have gone through trauma in their childhood to overcome it? What are the steps? What can they do? Is there maybe a step? Because sometimes we say these are the ABCDs of how you can maybe deal with it. Is there a formula, or what can we do?
In trauma, there is no like a list or steps that you can follow. Everybody is different because of how your traumatic event impacted you.
Okay.
Some impact you more, some impact you less.
Yes.
Some it's easier to just forget and you do not remember, and others you can just simply ignore in life.
Yeah.
And others stay with you up to even old age, even down into your grave. So one thing that I know a lot of people will not be happy to hear this, but it is a very important fact. It is face your trauma.
Wow.
Face your trauma. If it was that beating and the one who beat you is still around, even though you will not immediately go and confront them, if you get that chance, I know mommy, by the way, when you're nichapa, it is not right because of 1, 2, 3. And be gentle. Do not, because that is gonna create something else in a home.
You don't think they will be beaten up because they're adults now, they can't be beaten? Because we have seen mothers who still beat adult children, people who are married.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I said that will bring the wrong message. You need to go and tell them, educate them. That's what educate them that mom, daddy, caregiver, shosho, whoever, that whatever you did when I did this and this, you did me, it was not right because of 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Because it impacted me in 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Now I'm afraid of this and this. So you need to face your trauma. If you cannot go to that person, it is to acknowledge the trauma.
Okay.
A lot of times we just try to pretend that it's not there.
Yeah.
But blanketing something does not mean that it is not there. It is there. It's just that you're blanketing it, you're pretending it's not there, but it's still there. No matter how far you go in life, no matter how much progress you make in life, you will at one point fumble and make a step back because you left something undone.
Say it again. You will fumble and you have to go back.
Yes.
So you need to deal with it, especially if you have realized that there is a problem. Continue.
If you realize that you need to handle it, if you cannot go to that person, go to a professional. Talk about it. Yeah? Just relax your mind, relieve that burden. Because at times we will be afraid to go back to the person who caused this trauma because they hurt us so deep that we cannot bear to ever see them again. And that's alright. That's alright. How you have dealt with your trauma until now, it's okay. Whether you dealt it positively or negatively, it's okay. Now that you have realized that this is a traumatic event, I need to do something about it. And when you go to a professional, they will guide you more on your specific traumas. Because it's not just one, it's never just one. We might think that physical trauma or physical abuse is my main trauma, but there are still others that we consider minor that are impacting on this that we consider major, and it's making it pull us down, and it is making our personal development growth go down instead of increasing and living a happy, fulfilling life.
Oh wow, amazing, amazing. So, I am a grown-up that has gone through childhood traumas. I might not really know that I have gone through the traumatic experiences per se, because I maybe considered it a parenting style that my parents had. Now I'm an adult, and now that we have talked about it, I think about it and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is a childhood trauma. And I am not really comfortable with going to see maybe a psychologist or a counseling psychologist or whoever I'm supposed to see, but it is affecting me. So how else? Are there other ways that you can deal with traumas without necessarily going for help? Do I really, or can I, or should I see a psychologist?
One, you should, but when you're comfortable. So before you gain that confidence in yourself to open it up, you can start by doing mindful exercises. When you encounter something that's making you remember your traumatic event, just slow down, breathe, relax, remind yourself, remind your mind, remind your soul that this is not that painful moment. I overcome to that painful moment. I lived that painful moment, and I'm here right now, grown, successful, and having a happy life.
Hashtag word.
Yes.
Wow, awesome. So if you have gone through any childhood traumas, as Fidelis has said, you can actually come out of it. There are so many ways that you can do that. I hear that we talk about even meditation and yoga and some of these things that we do in terms of exercise that you can actually just do to deal with anxiety. If it is maybe now if you have a very serious trauma, that is when you need to see a psychologist, a counselor, someone who can really help you, who is a professional to overcome the trauma.
You have heard what we have discussed with Mary Fidelis. I know it is not everything. So I decided, you know what? Besides this, let me just add on top. And again, I have a lot to say. So I needed to do this. So let's do this. I started by saying a lot of us have suppressed our emotions and our feelings. When you go through something traumatic, for example, like a road accident or something, or you start being scared of accidents, you start avoiding even maybe using that particular route because that's where I had my accident. And that is what a lot of us do with our emotions. If something has been bad, bye-bye, I'm not doing this. When your ex did something that was a triggering effect, you're like, bye-bye, boo, I'm not doing this with you, see you. But what you do is you run away instead of dealing with the issue. And today I'm focusing on childhood traumas because most of us are grown, okay? And I need us to do better even for our children. I have a boy that I need to do better with, okay? So far, I feel like I haven't been doing well because every time he does a mistake, my first instinct as a mother is to slap him and be like, where, don't you dare repeat doing those things, and I usually say them, they're nonsense. You are better, you're clever than those things you're doing. But that's not how I should approach him as a baby. I'm like, yeah, baby, that one, that's not how you do it. There are better ways you can actually correct your child. So I'm also learning, you guys, and I'm here that we learn together. So if you're a parent, please watch because we need to do this together. Thank you so much for getting this far. I know that the video is already becoming a bit long, but guess what? We are going to do this because our life and the life of our children depend on it. So yeah, hold on. Now, I want to talk about repressed traumas, okay? And I will start by explaining what is repressed childhood traumas. So repressing means like you're not dealing with them. I've decided, you know what, because this thing is not working, just stay there. I put it aside, I go away. And most of us do it as a way of survival. It's our instinct. But the funny part is our memories might forget. We might even forget some of the feelings that come with the trauma. But the problem is there are triggers. Triggers are anything that will cause that memory to just snap. And then you see the problem with it because we have suppressed it. We did not know we are struggling with this thing. I had even forgotten about it. So the trigger makes you overreact. And then when you're overreacting, you're there being dramatic, and then you're like, wait a minute, why am I overreacting? why am I doing all this because of that small thing that this person did or said? But it's because they awoke something. So okay, that is how you go through some of these things. So it is actually a disorder. It is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, where you forget the trauma and the memories are forgotten. The feelings might go or might be kidogo there, but now the problem is the trauma is waiting for the triggers. And of course, as we have said, triggers can be so many things. It might be just something small that you have, hey, just reminds you that, by the way, my God, I went through these things, and then it causes you to overreact. Okay, so I'm just gonna read something here that made me really think twice. And I was studying, and repressing of those particular feelings and emotions of trauma is also known as dissociate amnesia. So you have dissociated the feelings that you have towards that particular thing, so it is a form of amnesia. Amnesia is forgetting. Okay, and of course we have done it because of survival. We want to survive. No one wants to deal with all these things, and that is how we survive without help of a psychologist, psychiatrist, or someone who can listen. But how does it affect us in the future? I have a few reasons, a few effects that might have in your future, and I will start with the first one: trust issues. Remember, you have gone through something that is traumatic, and you are not quite sure, like right now as I'm speaking to you, you're okay, you are doing everything possible, and your life is perfect. But the thing is, it affects your relationships, because by the way, you don't have trust, because man, I was messed kitambo. It is something that is subconscious that you are not aware about, and you have decided, by the way, this is how I'm reacting towards this thing. You have shut down your feelings. You act like you don't care. You act like whatever it is that is happening doesn't bother you, but the truth is, it bothers you. It's just that you don't know that it bothers you. The other thing is, your mind never forgets unless you deal with the trauma. It is one thing to sit down and say, by the way, someone hurt me, and I have consciously decided I am going to forgive. And every time I see 1 or 2, 3 things are things that trigger me, and this is how I will respond to that trigger. Rather than just saying, that one hurt me, leave him alone, I don't want to talk about that thing, just forget it, and leave me alone. When you do that, in the near future, something will repeat. And what you will do is, because you already don't know what are your triggers, the first thing you will be like is like very defensive. And the funny part about our reactions is that now they become a behavior. You notice that this person is forever suspicious, they're forever having issues. In your relationship, you're always the needy one, you're the one who is in need of, you have trust issues. Your boyfriend or your girlfriend cannot do anything because now you want to control their lives. But you see, it is a behavior you have formed because of a trauma that you have gone through. So you need to deal with it so that you can deal with your trust issues. Are we together? Unless you do that, guess what? You will always have issues, and everyone that you're dating will be there saying, me, I can't do this with this one because he has trust issues, or she has trust issue. She cannot just let me go hang out with my guys. And the lady is like there saying, he doesn't give me time to go out and do whatever, he's so toxic. It is not about toxicity. This person is struggling, and because they did not deal with that trauma, they have trust issues. The other thing is avoidance behavior. Because you had an insecure, scary, unpredictable childhood, it causes you to have avoidance behavior. Because you see, when things are unpredictable for you, you don't know how to behave. So what you do is you just avoid things. So every time you will hear your spouse or your significant other complaining that this one does not like to address the issues, he or she just decides to put them under the rug, because that is how he has been dealing with his scary unpredictable childhood. And because these are things that you've gone through, manze, kama mwanaume, you're there, you're like, no, me, I'm not dealing with these issues. And you know why? Because it is scary for you. And most unpredictable decisions, because you don't know what this person will do, maybe when you address that issue, the first thing you think about is, let me not talk about it, because now if we talk about this, if we deal with this, the possibilities of this person leaving me are high. And because I don't want unpredictability, and because I'm scared of being left, manze, we are not having that conversation. Let's leave it at that. You want us to be walking looking left, I will follow that because I don't want arguments in this relationship. And that is how a lot of us have done. We are going to work, and because you don't want issues, you don't want to be fired, you don't like unpredictability, mtu wangu. So you decide, by the way, whatever the bosses say, I'm gonna kiss ass because I want to stay here. But the problem is, you will end up overdoing things, you will end up being misused, you will end up being mistreated, you will end up being used. But the problem is, because you have childhood traumas, you don't want to deal with them, then they come and bite you in your back. So you need to actually deal with it. The other thing that can cause you to have avoidance behavior, if you had abusive parents, because now if they're abusive, they might just say something, they might just do something, and you're there and you're like, where, if this is now how these things are, me, I would rather avoid all these shenanigans. And that is a behavior you now form. And after you form it, guess what? It becomes a in your relationship, and it will affect you. So deal with it. The other thing is anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts are things that will hover around you. You're forever anxious because, by the way, you have dealt with something that is traumatic and you have not dealt with it. So once in a while you will even get panic attacks because you're like, what, you're just struggling. You just sit somewhere, and because maybe there's a small trigger of whatever it is that you went through. Remember, we are talking about someone who has suppressed their emotions, so they cost their body can react to what, because their mind has not forgotten, but them, they think that I dealt with this thing because I decided not to talk about it, but your body still has the reactions. So when your body is triggered, guess what? Suicidal thoughts come, and you're wondering, I'm having everything, I'm successful, why am I depressed, why am I suicidal? It is because you have gotten a trigger from something that happened to you in your childhood. And right now, as much as you're successful, as much as things are working, just one thing that maybe kwa your life that is not working, it has been triggered by something that you went through, and it will cause you to have all these things. So that's why we're talking about, please deal with them. Don't suppress. Anxiety is very bad. Depression is very bad, especially when you go now full blown and you're there struggling. Suicidal thoughts are one of those things that personally I struggled with, and I didn't know why. And I felt like, number one, it was because I had sexual intercourse with someone who was suicidal. Later I came to realize, because even as he was scripting and doing his mambo jambos, and as he was working, he always talked about, he was very dark, okay, he had a very dark persona, and he used to express it in his writing, but he was naturally very bubbly. And of course, those that are spiritual know that when you sleep with someone, you become one with them. So I think and I perceive that was one of the ways that I picked the suicidal spirit. And the second thing was because, personally, I feel like I came before time. I have talked about this story. My mom gave birth to me. If I calculate right, she was 19. So I feel like she was not ready for me. And then the other thing was, because of course she was young, she needed to leave me behind with my grandma and go and do her life. I lacked that love. I didn't feel like I was loved enough. I didn't feel like people were there for me the way I wanted them to be. And of course that gave me issues. So I was starved of love. And starved of love, not that my grandmother wasn't loving me, but because I didn't get it from my parents. So I feel like that also triggered, because I felt that I wasn't good enough. I felt like maybe I'm the reason why, because of course now at the end of the day they didn't end up together, and then I'm like, maybe I'm the reason why they didn't, maybe I'm the cause, all these things that we tell ourselves because we think that we were not on time, and we think that our parents divorced or something because of us and all those things. And it really affected me. So when I faced some challenges and they had something to do with who I was, I translated them as a starvation of love, without knowing, because of course those are not things that you really struggle with, unajua. So when I first had those suicidal thoughts, I thank God we had some form of intervention. I went and talked to my pastor and everything, and I did some counseling, and that worked. And I'm talking to you because I know maybe you're there, you don't have a pastor that you can go to, or maybe you don't have a psychiatrist or a psychologist you can pay and go to. Please go and see your pastors. I know a lot of churches also have some free counseling. You can go and just get counseled and deal with some of these things, especially for people who are getting into marriage, because men, these things will haunt you and they will affect your marriage if you don't deal with them. Okay? And we want you to be happy and to have a very fulfilling life. So please just go and deal with these things. So don't be scared. The other thing is chronic physical symptoms that will always be there. And some of them are like eating disorders. You will always have stomach ulcers and stomach pains. You will constantly be fatigued. And this is why the body always keeps the record. That's what we have always been saying, that the body keeps the score. As much as you feel like I have forgotten, your body still remembers, man. It remembers the triggers, it remembers the pain, and it will constantly remind you, and it will remind you by some of these things. Some of you have chronic diseases that, by the way, if you deal with some of your emotions, you will get healed. You will not have all these things. Some of you have ulcers, and people are like, hey, why do you have ulcers at a young age? It is because there are things that you're battling with, and of course you haven't dealt with them. Sindo. The other thing that that will affect you because of suppressing your feelings, repeating abusive relationships. I know a lot of us, even in our relationships, we have been in that space where you have decided by the I'm moving on. You have found this amazing person who is going to now be better than my ex, and then guess what? Some months later, oh my god, similar patterns, similar cycles, and then you're like, I thought I did better. I thought I chose better. I thought I was wiser at this particular time. But that's the problem. You have not been dealing with the issues. So when something looks like it's a good thing, you don't know that was a ticking time bomb that was waiting to to come and just kaboom in your face. But it's because we're not dealing with our traumas, you guys. Another way you can be affected is dramatic mood swings. Dramatic mood swings, of course, we have talked about it. It is dissociated. You have dissociated yourself from your emotions. You have numbed them. You have tried to put them aside. Unajua those things, the way we deal with it as Africans, you pretend that by the way, you know what, I don't care. You pretend you don't feel anything concerning some of those things, and that is how you go about with life. I remember when I was dating my ex, my last ex before I met my husband, I was telling him, by the way, I don't care. If you won't call me every time, even if you won't text me all the time, I am good because I'm a grown up. I am used to this. But remember, I have struggled with starvation of love. So I am like, I don't care. But the truth is, I really wanted attention. But then because I was like, mi ni ule msichana, I am okay, I am fine, that one doesn't bother me. My friend, it bothered me. It bothered me to a point of I am not with him and I am married to another one. And that is the thing. You are so quick to say I don't care about something when you're getting into a relationship, because I think some of us actually have these conversations when we are dating. You're there telling that person, yeah, I'm good with this. I don't care, by the way. Uko sawa. I don't care about you having a baby mama. But you haven't really, when you're saying I don't care, you're saying it because you're just rabbiting off. You're just trying to establish the fact that, by the way, me, I'm a better person. Emotionally, I am mature. So these things, I am okay. I can deal with them. The problem is, you haven't dealt with traumatic experiences. So, men, you're waiting for a trigger. What are triggers? Any feeling, extreme feeling of rejection, criticism, feeling of not being enough, and humiliation. And this causes you to lash out, and that's where the drama comes in. Because this person has humiliated me. The way this person is talking to me, they have not talked to me right. And then you become dramatic. But then maybe out of the thing that they were talking about, you have interpreted it the wrong way. But now because they have given you a trigger, remember, it is something you have forgotten. You have decided, by the way, I dealt with that issue. You're there saying I don't care, those things don't stress me, emotions are for weaklings. Kenyans, Africans, mind yourself. And then there something happens, and then you become so dramatic, you're almost cutting people's hairs and killing them. And it is because you are triggered, and that trigger causes you to feel the same thing that you felt in your trauma. You feel criticized, you feel not enough, you feel humiliated, you feel rejected, and then you're like, who are you to show me or to do me dirty like that? And that is why we are having so many of us killing one another here, because of some of the things that we should have dealt with. Oh God, have mercy. The other thing is that substance use and addictions become your quick fix. So you will tend to be an addict yourself. I will use an example here of a cousin of mine. My uncle has a young man, okay? And at that particular time when he was younger, my uncle would just be drinking, will be smoking in the house, and then he's telling his boy, who is my cousin, alcohol is so bad, okay? Let me just say it in Swahili, then maybe translate it. Pombe ni mbaya sana, nisikai kakuona ukikunywa. But then he's telling him that way while he's doing nothing. So he was telling him, alcohol is bad, I don't want to ever see you drink. And any other thing that he was doing, even smoking. And he would do that in front of him, but also caution him that it is bad. Years later, they started arguing, fighting over it, because the boy was doing it behind his back, and then he realized by the way he's doing it. And then you see there's a particular age you grow up as a man, and your father is like, we can do this together. So right now as we speak, they sit down and drink together, and both of them now are telling, my uncle is telling the grandchildren, and now my cousin, who is the father of the children, is now telling the children, don't do what I am doing, what we are doing. And I think it's a pattern, and it will be passed. So if they are not careful, if they don't deal with the issues that they themselves are going through, guess what? The other children, the third generation, will follow suit. They will still drink, they will grow up, they will come and drink with their father, maybe because their grandfather will have died, and then they will continue, and then they will pass it, and imagine a whole cycle. Yet it is something they can actually talk about and deal with it. My uncle can start with, my son, I think I am addicted to this thing, I don't know how to stop, and I started it maybe as a joke. I started it 1, 2, 3. I was hiding, I was doing it heavy, and I am now not able to stop. I will try. Maybe I will work on it. I will do 1, 2, 3 things. The son will see that by then my dad is trying, and maybe that will cause him either to drink less, or to stop, or to ignore altogether, because he's like, no, me, I don't want to end up like my father. But you see, the problem is the one who is cautioning them, they're not even telling them why they are struggling with the struggle, or have they tried and maybe it hasn't worked or something. Have they had that conversation? No. All my uncle was saying is, this thing is bad, don't do it. But he's not giving my cousin the struggles behind the scene. See, now my cousin is a very full-blown alcoholic. Imagine, he staggers, he falls down, he steals food from the shamba to go and sell so that he can get food, he can get money to drink. He's that bad. And you see why? Because the dad didn't do better, and he didn't know any better. That's the other thing. So we need to learn these things. If you are in that situation, you're struggling with addiction, you're smoking, you're drinking, you're going through life and things are happening, and you're using alcohol as a quick fix, can you try not having your kids see you do some of these shoddy, crazy things that you guys do? I've seen clips online going out. People are carrying their children to clubs, and children are watching you dancing there, doing all manner of things, while you are doing it to escape and to fix a problem that you have. This child is seeing that as a very good lifestyle. It will be so hard for you to convince this baby that when I was high and I was dancing and I was having fun and I was laughing, that I was depressed. They won't understand that. They will see that you're lying, and they will want to have that same high that you've been having. And again, they follow suit, and substance becomes something that is in the family. Imagine. Wow. The other thing is low self-esteem and shame. This is brought about by the self-hate that we have, the self-loathing, the self-doubt, the feeling of humiliations that we have gone through, the inescapable shame that we have dealt with from all the traumas that we have dealt with. So this causes you to have low self-esteem, and you also have shame. Imagine dealing with that. Then again, how will you be very good at expressing yourself? Will you accept even someone to correct you? Because remember, you yourself, you're your worst critic. You're criticizing yourself left and center. So when someone gives you a correction, to you it's criticism. So the first thing I'm gonna do is respond, is deal with you immediately, or shun you, or just be like, you know what, I can't do this with you. You become maybe withdrawn, you become introverted and all these things, and then you won't achieve a lot. Because if you are running away from people because you don't want them to increase or add up to the hate, imagine how miserable your life will be. And then that will also cause you to even now go back to what we were talking about, suicidal thoughts, and some of you might act on those suicidal thoughts. And then this also causes constant criticism of self, and for needing anything from anyone. So every time you feel like you need someone to help you, you criticize yourself. You're like, why? Because you already don't have value for yourself. So you don't see the need of people helping you because they shouldn't see value in you. Imagine living like that. Will you even enjoy yourself? You can't. So it causes you to just have a very bad life. The other thing is insecure attachment and fear of abandonment. Oh my God, you feel something is wrong with you. So because you have had those feelings of, guy, there's something wrong, then why should someone love you? Which leads to self-doubt and self-hate, which we have talked about. And any hint that someone is giving you for showing abandonment, you receive it, and sometimes you over receive such feelings. Maybe, for example, you have a partner, and that particular day your partner is very busy at work, they don't have time to talk to you. So you call them, you text them, they're not picking and they're not responding. Because that for you is a form of abandonment, and because you feel like you're not worth it, you interpret it as, this person does not like me, this person does not love me, this person does not have time for me, and I should end this relationship. You are self-sabotaging that relationship because you have received an hint. When that person texts you maybe the next day or that evening and tells you they were busy with work, the first thing you will be like, kama unanilenga uniambie. You see, already overreacting. If you are in a relationship with such a person, the first thing you will think about is, you know what, I don't have time for your drama, bye, I am leaving this relationship. Yeah, so it affects you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I love you. I thank God for you. I hope you have picked something. This video is gonna be long, but I decided to just add on to whatever it is that we were talking about, so that I don't do another childhood trauma unless I bring a guest who have gone through maybe a few or some of the things that we have talked about, and maybe how it has affected them and how they are dealing with it. And that is it. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for staying until this particular time. So I have another video that will interest you. Just click on the link on this particular site and you will be blessed even as you check it. Here. Yes, there. Check that video. It's gonna transform your life. Until next time, bye bye.